Hi, this is Liz with Crafty Devotion, and welcome to my craft room. Today I'm making a mauve rag wreath, and so I'm making some pretty flowers. They're kind of purplish mauve color. So I decided to bring you on and let you watch me make a flower. I am going to use my a la Liz technique, which is a technique I've shown you several years ago. I came up with it combining a few different types of flower making, and since then I've learned that people have used bobby pins in making flowers for quite a while. Maybe a little bit different. My twist is a bit different, I think, but at the same time, something new to me may not have been something new to you. So with that said, I'm going to show you how I made, let's see, a flower like this one. I'm going to use this fabric, this purple fabric, and then I'll show you what fabrics I used to make this one, and this one, I think. I'll show you the fabrics I'm using. This is a chiffon. It's not quite organza, but it's more of a chiffon organza, like a mix between. And chiffons can come in different textures. So like this is a chiffon that's very floppy. And here, I made this one with it. You can see how different that looks to this. And these are made from, the one we're going to make today is made from a fabric that is actually a upcycled fabric, and I purchased it at a thrift store. I go to thrift stores and I look at the curtains, and when I see sheer curtains I decide whether I want to buy it for this. So that's what this is. I tear it and make it into a flower. Most of my flowers that I make are made out of curtain fabric or shears or made from upcycled materials, but I do also purchase some. So what I do is I take a regular ruler. This is, I think, a ruler I even got at Dollar Tree, and I like to wrap it around this. I have videos where I show you how you can make them different petals of different sizes. If you cut a cardboard, you can use anything that's, the width that you want to use. But when I want you to notice that when I tear this fabric, it begins to curl. So if you're going to be tearing this type of fabric, it will probably curl like I'm showing you here. But what I do is I make sure to line up at least one side. I'm looking at this side and lining it up. And I'm not doing it extremely tight because I want it to be able to slide back off the ruler. And I make the fabric a little bigger than what I want it to be, maybe an inch to a half an inch or so larger than I want it to be, so that I'm going to cut off those edges that are curling. I mean, I suppose you can leave them on, but I usually cut them off. Okay, so there it is, and you can see that it's very loose. I'm tightening it up just a tiny bit because it's a little too loose. I guess holding it in air, showing you, kind of made it quite a kind of loose there. All right, then what I usually do is I make sure that I line up this side, and then I'll go to that part that you rolled up, that's rolled up, and I'll hold it like this, and I'll cut it across this way, just enough to get all that rolled stuff off. See that? Okay, then I'll do is I use my thumb as a guide, and I just trim off the edges. I'm going to straighten this out so it's not so overlapping, and I do both sides. I forgot to tell you how much fabric this is. I think this is about 17 or 18 inches. I'll measure it after I cut it, just to make sure I tell you how long it is. And the width is up to you, but I usually start around 4 inches or 5, because I like my flowers to be maybe 3.5 to 4 inches. Oops, don't unroll it. I almost unrolled it because I'm talking. And then I can see that some of this is still rolled up. I'm actually going to cut a little more on this side because I want the rolls to not be there. So I'm just going to do it again. And so this flower is going to come out a bit smaller than the fabric that I started with. Just do that. Okay, so I like to show you when I make mistakes because then you can learn from them, just like I do. I don't always do it perfectly. So the next thing I do is I take each side. So when I roll it, it basically makes it easier for me to cut it like this. If you fold it, which you can fold it, you just have a few more cuts to make. And then I'll just try and find the edge there. And I'll trim that and do it to both sides. Alright, when you unroll it, then you have a whole bunch of petals. Let me see, I'm going to measure this before I cut anything off. Let's see, it is 19 inches long, which is long, might be longer than the other ones. And the width, it looks like it was probably 5 inches. So now it's about 4.5. So this flower is going to end up being about 4.5 inches. And the last petal was crooked, so I just reshaped it. As you can see, you cut off down this way, but you do leave at least 1/4 inch here in the center. And then I use a bobby pin, this hairpin. I don't know where I got this one from. I get them from different places. And you just go right down the center. So this is how it's gathered. And if you wish at this point, you can, if you use a candle, you can go ahead and use it this way and kind of melt it a little bit. But I usually melt mine after I actually put them together, and I use either a lighter or a candle, whatever. It depends on how, like if I'm just making a few or if I'm making a lot. Sometimes I'll set up a candle, other times I won't, and sometimes I don't even seal them at all. But I love the look it gives them when you do seal them. It makes them look a little more realistic. So all I'm doing is dragging it and gathering it as I go. All right. I usually kind of pull the last two together, make sure they're even. You can see how pretty that looks. And this is how I make my flowers. They're not extremely difficult to make. There are little tricks that happen. Sometimes, like that one comes loose a little bit, and sometimes they're uneven this way. If it is, then you could pull it a little bit before you tie it. And then what I use, I've been using this for years. I use a cotton string, but you can use other things if you wish. Regular crochet yarn, I think it could break, because singly crochet yarn isn't always strong. So then what I do is I place the string around here where it's gathered. So you can see the hairpin there, and then I put the string through there on the top. And on this side I place it around. I'm going to show you all the way in the bottom. I go along and follow the pin, and then when I put on this side, I actually go through the hole so that it's attached there, and that just helps it to stay in the center. Then I take this and I do one, just like you're going to tie your shoe, and then I do it twice. That helps it also to stay together and not come undone. I do like using a cotton thread because the cotton thread doesn't slip like other threads. I'm just double checking here because I feel like while I was showing you, something came a little off. It looks okay. All right, so you can see what I'm doing is I'm using the bobby pin to hold it, and then down here you can see the string is over the bobby pin, the pin. I push it over and I push it through about halfway. I want to make sure it's through before I make, and then I make another tight, and then I pulled it out, and then now I make it a snug, and then I do a knot here. And then usually when I make them, this top side ends up becoming my top because it just always looks better. This side looks fine too. So you can actually use it any side you like. But I usually take it and I go back around and bring the string to the back of my flower. And at this point, if it's kind of loose, if say it didn't tighten enough, I kind of form my flower this way, push it downward. And then I'm going to knot it again back here in the back. And as you can see, these types of like a slightly slipped, like a curtain sheer material, it makes a beautiful flower. And at this point, it looks gorgeous. I don't know if you can see it, but there are pieces of the fabric that are falling down. So if you can leave it like this, and it can be a shabby flower, and you'll see little bits of fray come off. But I like to melt these. I'm going to show you with one of these. What I do is I like to go like this. I'm going to show you what I do. I hug it. I hug it and snug it first. I like to do the tips, and then I make the tips kind of the same. Let's see if this one's working. This one's not working. Grabbed the wrong one. And I use this torque lighter. I like torque lighters, but I also use the other types of lighters. The torque lighter, when you use it, if you order this on Amazon, you will need to also buy the butane. Let me show you. I found this butane at Walgreens. So you'd have to buy this because they'll come empty and you have to fill them. So, but when you use them, they stay on when you hold it down. It stays on. And you can really kind of manipulate a little bit easier than a lighter. Let me show you a lighter. Oh, there's this lighter. This is from the Dollar Tree. And I filled it. This one at least gives you a little more, ability to move it around. And then a regular lighter, which, does this one work? I don't know. No, this one doesn't work. Well, a regular lighter is a little bit, oh, here's one. Is you have to hold it like this and hold it like this to use it. You can see it there. And I don't actually put the flame itself on the fabric. I usually just get it close enough to melt it. I like this one because it helps me to be able to, as you can see, I'm not actually touching the fabric, but the flame is coming out. So if you like these torque lighters, this one right here particularly, my finger does get tired if I'm making a lot of flowers, so I don't use it all the time. And as you see, I have a few out because if I'm making a lot of flowers, that way I can switch around if I want to. And flame, you got to be careful. If you're not used to this, fabric melts, fabric burns, synthetic fabric will melt. I have a video out there on making a silk flower, and when I first started learning, I didn't know the difference between real silk and fake silk, but I learned later on that silk I used was a fake silk. Silk will pretty much burn, and cotton burns. So you can only do this with synthetic fabrics that aren't made of 100% cotton. And sometimes some fabrics have blends in them. You can do it with some of the laces that they make because the laces are usually made out of synthetic fabrics. So there you go. You can see how it just comes out beautiful. And you melt this as much as you want. Sometimes if I don't like the way a petal looks, I'll just pull out an actual petal and I'll say, okay, that petal needs some love. And sometimes I'll do this, and you can see that petal is not. So that's what I do. I do that, and then here you go. And let me show you the other ones before I go. So this one right here, let me grab a center. Oh wow, it's just blue, but you can see how it just looks gorgeous with the center. For this wreath I'm making, I decided I'm going to use mostly flowers that are not extremely layered. So here's one. I put a lace behind it though. This one isn't a layer. And here's one made with a different fabric. As you can see, I want you to notice that the different fabrics. So I was taking time to use my little vacuum. If you don't have a little vacuum, they have little handheld ones, or they have something like this. I like this one. But it can vacuum up all the mess that you make, the little messes. I had a lot of mess there. So let me show you the flowers. So this one doesn't have anything on it, and I used a different fabric. Which is the fabric I used here? Oh, well, I have a little slip of it. It's this one. It's kind of like a satiny, and it has a tiny bit of stretch, but it's the fabric I had, and this is one of the main fabrics I'm using in the wreath, so I made that. This is a, oh, look at, I still have a whole bunch falling around. I had to clean that up. This is a lining fabric that I used, and this is probably around 18 inches, and let me show you. I thought I had another one here, like with this fabric. Oh, I think it was this one. This one is another curtain fabric. As you can see, if you make it shorter, this one's a little bigger, a little smaller than this one. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that delay. I guess it took longer for me to do this than I thought. I had to go get my son from the bus. But so, as I was showing you, this is the same fabric. This is shorter and it's a little smaller. This is more fabric. Like this is 12 inches. This one's around 15 or 16 inches. And then I was showing you this chiffon, which you'll find this type of chiffon all the time at the stores. It's very floppy. Let me show you here. For those, you need to make sure that you make them smaller, not as large. I'm gonna get my ruler. This one's about 3 inches. And you can also like layer it with something else behind. See that? And really, once you put it on a project, it's not going to flop around too much. Looks gorgeous. So that's it. I was basically showing you how I make these. This is another fabric. I think it's I don't know what type of fabric, but it's a synthetic. It's also kind of like a curtain type fabric. And this is it right here. So that's it. I just wanted to show you while I was making them. And this one is organza. While I was making them, I wanted to just show you how to make them. Remind you, I've been making these for a long time, and I have tons of tutorials if you want questions using organza. You can use organza, you can use all kinds of fabrics to use this technique, but based on the fabric, how long you make it helps how wide you make it. So this one, I'm sure that I don't make it extremely wide because it's kind of floppy, so I won't make it like 5 inches. But that's really what you have to consider each time you make one. Well, this is Liz with Captive Devotion. I hope that inspires you to make your own, and I will talk to you next time.